So why did you guys decide to run for Executive Alliance?
So this started after SB 17 was passed, at least for me, was really interested in seeing how UT could restructure resources to improve the lives of students on campus, because after the anti-DEI bill was passed, personally a lot of students came up to me and shared their stories of how they believed the university was either being over-compliant or no longer supporting them. And so really wanted to push for that, and so I met with Jonathan, who met at Camp Texas actually, and thought it would be a great idea to team up.
Yeah, Camp Texas is it's like a freshman retreat, or it's a retreat that freshman students do before they get to campus. So it's like to get them all excited, rah rah UT, all that jazz, and then also like make connections so that they're not like alone when they get to campus. So that's how we met, and then we just kind of kept in touch. And then one day she was like, "Do you want to run with me for vice president of student government?" And so I have been in student government for like 2 years, and so I had always kind of planned on being on the exec board, wasn't sure what capacity, and then she asked me to be vice president, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to do it. So yeah.
That sounds really cool. So this camp, I've never heard of it. Is it like a university?
Camp Texas, it's run out of the Alumni Center. I heard about it like on a tour sometime during orientation. It's been around for a long time. I'm not sure exactly what year, but I'm a counselor now, so this is my second year as a counselor, so that's really cool. It's basically what us counselors do is we just facilitate like small groups of like 10, 12 students. We talk with them about like their hopes, fears for college. It's a lot of fun. It's basically everything you would want to get out of summer camp. All the games, all the all the running around. It's very cool.
That sounds really cool. Well, what do you think is the Executive Alliance's like responsibility to students and to campus, especially since a lot of students might not know what you guys are doing?
Definitely.
Well, our exact responsibilities are one, to oversee the agencies that are underneath the executive branch. There's 11 of them. Each of them have their own little purpose. What's it called? There's like the mental health agency. There's the women's resource agency. And so basically, our responsibility is kind of set the agenda for those agencies, but also like work with their co-directors to see what they want to do and how we can help with that. But also our main responsibility is to act as sort of, this is super cheesy, but the voice of students on campus. So basically, from what I've read, our job is to be like liaisons between student government and higher administration. So basically just pushing the student agenda, the student government agenda. So yeah.
Yeah, piggybacking off Jonathan, what Jonathan just said, that's exactly right. We're liaisons. We're bridging the gap between students and student government. Student government is all about making sure student voices are heard and passing legislation so that, let's say, for example, we want to change the registration system. Well, then student government creates legislation to make that happen. And specifically, the Exec Alliance, what we are supposed to do is represent students and make sure we're doing our utmost to make sure student voices are heard. So as people who are responsible for bridging that gap, one of our main campaign policies is unity. So making sure that we reach out to students, because as you said, a lot of students don't even know about student government. And that is our mission, to change that, because we're really here to make sure students are heard, bringing their voice to them.
Can you talk more specifically about like how you guys are going to bridge that gap?
Well, some of our ideas included forums for student org leaders, so like bringing together student org leaders who, and so we can collaborate on ideas or collaborate on certain projects. So, for example, if student government wants to host an event, there's also Campus E&E that is really good at hosting events and has a huge budget for hosting events, and they might not have a lot of ideas for what they want to do. Like I think they wanted to do something for Leap Day and they were like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, let's make a frog event. They can just do stuff like that. And so if we have ideas, or if we know of a club that has certain ideas, one of our main priorities are like connecting different organizations that maybe have similar goals. And then on top of that, just making sure that people know more about opportunities to be in contact with us. So one of our ideas was like a town hall, but also we've been rethinking that, and we've been thinking like there's already an open forum situation that goes on at the beginning of every student government assembly meeting, which the executive board is required to attend. So our town halls, we were thinking about like, instead of doing a town hall, maybe being more, advertising the opportunity to speak to us better to students next year. So letting people know that there is a time every week where you can talk to your representative and you can talk to the president and vice president. But like being better about that.
Yeah. In addition to that, one thing we are talking about a lot is just making sure that we do personal outreach to students. And so one channel for this is Instagram, social media in general. Just following like almost every single UT student we can find, getting them to follow us back. Obviously not everyone will follow us back, but if you're watching this, follow us back. Ramya, Nambala, Jonathan Wilson, y'all. But essentially what we're really trying to do is, you know, on our stories, what we're doing for our campaign is let us know, what do you want to change about UT? And we're already getting in ideas. We're getting people reaching out to our personal Instagrams, to our Nambala Wilson campaign Instagram. And so what we're doing is using social media, leveraging that, as well as we've talked about, as Jonathan said, those town halls where people can talk to us about what issues they're facing on campus. And we're planning to hold them during assembly, which is student government's legislation meeting, and also just going around different places on campus, and every once in a while just going to, you know, the engineering building and setting up camp in the lobby, like, hey, what do y'all want? And so in places that student government maybe didn't reach before as much. And so that's really our goal, to just do personal outreach and make sure people know that we're here for them through the town halls and the
the assembly meetings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why are you guys the best alliance to bring about these changes?
That's a great question. I think we just make the perfect team for several reasons. The first is, I think out of all the executive alliances here, Jonathan is the only candidate who has prior student government like legislation experience. And so we really bridge that gap between, obviously we want to create change within student government and really create this unification and bridge the gap between the student body and student government. And one way to do that is to have a fresh new perspective from someone who previously wasn't in student government. However, it's also very important to have the student government experience so you know exactly how to get those things done. So bridging the fresh new perspective and student government, and we're the only pair who has both, versus the other two executive alliances running don't have student government experience. So that's one. But the second is we have done the most thorough research in terms of our policy papers, in terms of our platforms. And so we've been reaching out to, like, for all of our policies that you find on our policy paper, we have reached out to people to see the feasibility and evaluate everything. We've talked to previous executive alliances, presidents, vice presidents, and based on what they said was feasible, what they recommended, that's how we crafted everything. And so we've been very intentional. And I just believe we're the most competent team out of everything, only because we just have the perfect balance of both the experience and the thoroughness that we believe that we would make the best team.
Kind of going off of that, you mentioned that you don't have any student government experience. So how would you work within that organization when you never have before?
That's a great question. The first is, obviously, the past few weeks, getting assimilated for the entirety of this semester. What I've done is a lot of research, and then talking with Jonathan a lot. We've talked about, you know, there's going to be a learning curve in regards to, you can't expect to be completely new to something and then know everything. And you need to make sure that you're very, you handle everything with like delicacy and care. And so Jonathan and I have discussed this quite a bit, and one major, one thing is for sure just been connecting with people in student government over the past few weeks, and working with Jonathan, of course, has been really great.
And I'll say, like, first, Ramya's advocacy experience outside of student government, that's one of the main reasons I agreed to run with her in the first place. I think she's a very capable person in general, but then on top of that, she's really good at learning about all the things in student government that I'm just pushing her way, that I'm just like word vomiting towards her. She receives it, she is on it, and she's like, okay, got it. And then we're able to reach consensuses about like what we should do based on student government resources and based on what has been able to be done in the past really quickly, because she's such a quick learner when it comes to that.
Awesome. And kind of working off of that, how will your student government experience like enhance your alliance?
Well, I think I know a lot of people who are already doing the jobs that we're trying to do. I think I've had a lot of experience. I was an agency member before I was a member of the assembly, so I know how agencies are structured. I know how the legislature is structured. I kind of know how they're supposed to work together, and I kind of know how the president and vice president fit into all of that. I think my experience I think it's going to help us figure out what worked last year and what didn't work last year. Like, I think a huge part of what I brought to the campaign this year was spotting problems that, one, I saw within the organization, and two, that people have brought to student government from the general population. And we've been able to work all of that into our campaign. So, like, making student government more open. I've seen all the reasons that, I've seen all the reasons that maybe students don't come to assembly because they don't know about assembly. I've seen all the tactics that legislators have used, or assembly members have used, to like get more attention towards certain initiatives. So like different caucuses that they've made. And so part of our platform is making more caucuses so that students can come in and put in their input. Basically, I know the tricks, and then I kind of know the flaws within it. And I think that's what I think that's what that experience kind of adds to this alliance.
And I have to say, Jonathan's the best. So obviously he has a lot of student government experience in addition to his amazing personality and the fact that like he's very creative and he has lots of great ideas and is really able to connect the dots in a very creative way. And so not only does he bring student government experience, he knows exactly what problems there are, what solutions there are, and how to go about that. And so all in all, I think it's a no-brainer that obviously it's a huge asset to have both him and his student government experience.
Yeah. What would you guys say is like the main issue you're trying to tackle?
We've talked about this a lot. Unity. Unity,
probably. Only because a lot of what we want to do with, I think there were three main points. There was on our platform. There was unity, there was restructuring after Senate Bill 17, and there was offering resources to students. And I think with unity, a huge part of unity is just being more organized when it comes to solving problems for students. And that's not just on behalf of student government, that's on behalf of all students. So like I said before, having more student organizations work together to solve their problems, having students work with alumni to solve their problems, because one of our platform points was for DEI was bringing in the alumni association who have already shown that they want to support students in this time, and helping them kind of, and kind of like bringing them in to kind of help us solve problems caused by Senate Bill 17, like a lack of funding, because one of the problems that students have brought up in assembly is that like some of the former executive members of the former agencies of the MEC, they came in, they were like, and they talked about their problems, and I asked them in assembly, I was like, what do you guys need? And they were like, money. I was like, oh, okay, so that should be our priority. So part of our campaign is working with alumni to hopefully fund those organizations and those initiatives that have been canceled. And so uniting alumni with students, uniting students with students, uniting students with student government. So that's why I would say that unity is kind of our biggest, is our highest priority.
Definitely. And it's also the fact that the biggest issue for years now has been, like you already mentioned, a lot of students don't know about student government or the Executive Alliance. And that's a huge problem because we're here to literally bridge the gap. That's our purpose, to bring their voice to the UT administration. And so we are really focused on prioritizing that because we believe in creating long-term generational change. That's why we're running.
And realistically, like our role is advocacy-based. And it's to guide the student government agencies. There's only so much that we can do, but if we can connect people who have certain similar ideas and similar goals, I feel like that would go a much longer way.
Exactly. And so from a practical perspective, the best thing we can do is just maximize resources by connecting and unifying everyone here on campus, because it's not us, it's them.
Yeah, can you speak more a bit about how you would like be guiding the agencies and like what kind of things you'd be doing?
Yes, definitely. So there's the the Community Engagement and Advocacy Agency,
So,
and yeah.
Oh, well, no, you can talk. Okay.
So essentially one thing we're working on is going to just be expanding that agency. That is the agency that undertakes currently like DEI initiatives, or what was previously DEI.
So when we talk about connecting students to alumni, one of our main ideas were having that agency be more in charge of that role. And then part of our idea for that was like working with Campus E&E because they have a really good system for connecting with people outside of campus. Like they have a whole office dedicated to calling people and seeing if they'll come to events. And so kind of seeing how they're structured, that was one of our ideas. Once, if and when we're elected, I think that's one of the first things we're going to do. We're going to try to reach out to them and see how they do that, because I think for that agency specifically, we want them to be more involved in reaching out outside of campus.
Yeah.
What else is there?
And so it's primarily that agency that would be specifically for Unity and for the restructuring resources. Other than that, when it comes to the unification, as we mentioned before, we're really working on creating monthly forums where we bring different clubs together in the same sector. So for example, all the mental health clubs, let's come together for this forum. We're bringing them all together, and our goal is to really foster collaborations and partnerships within them. And so that's one of the many ways in which we want to foster unity.
And then the people who can be in charge of that are probably going to be people who are in these agencies, like the mental health agency. Like, they can help us kind of guide that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So we've been speaking about SB 17 and like the effects it has had on campus. Is there anything else you'd like to say about like what you would be doing in the wake of the anti-DEI ban?
Well, we had 2 ideas. We had having the agency be more involved, and then also with the MEC closure, we had ideas about what the center could kind of become. Of course, the officers of the former MEC are gathering to see what they want to do with it. So and there's legislation that has been passed regarding having them form a committee to see what they want to do with it. So one, we would want to support them at this time and making sure that the students have a voice in what becomes of the center. And then 2, we hope to come in with our own ideas, but at the time we kind of just want to see what the students want from the center. One of our ideas was have the Multicultural Engagement Center, or the former Multicultural Engagement Center, be repurposed to kind of look out for those alumni funds. So maybe not the agency, but the MEC kind of takes that on, or the former MEC kind of takes that on in whatever form that it goes on to next. But ultimately, it's not really our decision to make yet. But that's something that we really want to work on with them.
Yeah, and when it comes to our platform point about SB 17, this also ties into what we were talking about with Unity, because we've had a lot of students come to us and tell us their stories about how they have felt on campus, if they felt unsupported after SB 17, or with regards to a lot of different issues regarding them being a minority and feeling unsupported on campus. And so our Unity point also makes it so as we connect to students, we want to make sure that any concerns they have after SB 17, we can bring that to the administration, find solutions within our capacity, and do our absolute best to take care of them.
And another part of that is just another part of what students have been saying is that they just feel blindsided by the whole thing, because there's a lot of projects that had been going strong. They were told that they would be able to continue, and then all of a sudden when students got back, they're canceled. And I think a lot of what we want to do is to hopefully figure out how to save those kinds of projects. Yeah.
Thank you. So switching gears a little bit, the war in the Middle East has of course had effects on campus that we've seen. So what action would you take, if any?
That's a great question. So one thing I have to say is, obviously as student government, we have to stay impartial in the sense that we cannot take a specific stance. That being said, when it comes to things such as if student safety is being threatened, if there is something going on in regards to students feeling unsafe on campus, it is our responsibility to ensure there are resources so that all students feel safe and protected on campus. But we can't take specific stances in regards to the situation there.
At least not us.
Not us specifically.
Yeah, no, you keep going.
So one thing that we really are prioritizing is making sure we hear students from different perspectives on campus and make sure that their security needs are taken care of. Because, I mean, regardless, for example, if there's hate crimes going on campus, we're going to make sure there's resources to support them. And so we just need to make sure everyone feels secure and safe on campus. And yeah.
But one note on student government taking a stance. There is a protocol for student government to put out public statements, but that I don't think that it's the president and vice president who are supposed to make those decisions right off the bat. I think there's a process for it through assembly, and I think part of what we want to do is just to make sure that we're following the correct process before we make any big decisions about what we want to say as a student body.
Yeah, so while we can't say anything on behalf of the student body per se, our main focus is just making sure everyone's security and safety is taken care of on campus. So we can't take specific stances, but we can make sure that everyone feels protected and safe on campus.
Yeah, there's just certain rules about taking stances on international affairs, but there is a process for that, and we just hope to follow that.
Yeah.
Can you speak a bit more about like how you would go about ensuring student safety?
Definitely. And so this is something that we have been in talks about after actually some students reached out to us I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, again with the Unity Point, really trying to connect to students and ask them, what do you want on campus? And so we started the process of researching how can we bring more resources to make sure, students are protected from, for example, hate crimes on campus. And so that could look like more funding in some senses. That could look like a number of things, but while we don't know the specifics of what that would entail just right now, we started looking into it a few days ago, we can say for sure that's a priority for us because all students should feel safe and supported on campus.
And shifting a bit back more to your alliance, what specific unique perspective can each of you bring to this?
It's a great question. I think that when it comes to me personally, one perspective I bring to the table is a lot of community advocacy in regards to making sure that we bring actual change. And so what that means is, because of my experiences in policy and advocacy circles, I think I know how to collaborate with stakeholders, just as Jonathan has done on campus with student government. But actually one asset that I think I bring to the table more than anything else is more of an operational standpoint, actually from my business experience. In business, something that's huge is outreach and obviously getting everything together. And then in entrepreneurship and startups, speed is king. So you want to get things done as quickly as possible. I think Jonathan has seen a little bit of this, but basically I have no shame when it comes to outreach or who we should reach out to. And I'm like, okay, if we think we need to reach out to 5 people, we need to reach out to 50 people. And that comes from my background in anything from real estate to ed tech. And so it just comes, I think speed of execution and my willingness and my ability to recruit people, collaborate with others. And I think Jonathan has so much to bring to the table as well. So.
No, Ramya's efficiency is insane. That is something that is one of the reasons that I agreed to run with her, but then also since we started running, it's something that I've noticed a lot and something I've been very impressed with, and my faith in her to be our next student government president, it's only grown since we started running. I think me specifically, I personally like to do everything under the sun. So I am in a lot of orgs like Camp Texas, I'm in pre-log orgs, I'm in identity-based orgs, anything under the sun. And then, of course, the student government. I think, and then I work as well. I worked at something called the McCombs Wellness Center. So I think if there's something I bring to the table, it's having all those different experiences and being able to listen to a bunch of different people about their needs and what they want. I think the fact that I've gotten around to meet so many different people on UT is part of the reason we've had so much ease in coming up with what we want to do for our campaign. So what we want to do for international students or the International Student Agency, I was I know an international student, let me text him. What do you struggle with? Mental health, I work in a mental health, based center. And so I just went to my boss and he just started talking about it. And I was like, I should write that down. I think all the different ways that I'm involved on campus is a huge part of what makes me a good representative for the student body, I would say.
And I have to say, it's really admirable. Jonathan has such a broad experience on campus that it's anything on our policy paper, he's I know that person, let's call them up. So it's amazing. Really grateful to be on team with him, and I think we've got this.
If you could sum up your campaign in one sentence or one phrase, what would it be?
Wait, we already know this phrase. It's
All right,
literally
3,
our slogan. Okay.
2, 1. Solving real problems for real students.
Perfect. Is Is there anything else you guys would like to add about your campaign, about the election?
Follow nambala.wilson.2024 on Instagram. The amazing Jonathan handles that. You'll see really funny reels on there. That's all him.
If you want to learn more, like about our policy in depth, we have a link tree inside our Instagram bio. Right now, all that's in our link tree is our Instagram and our policy paper, and then on the day of voting, it will have the link to vote.
Yes.
But yeah, if you want to go more in depth about our policies, our policy paper is in our link tree.
100%. And contact us at any time if there's anything you as a student want.
Yeah, we've already gotten DMs.
Yeah,
about,
so
like,
many.
what people want. And so, like, obviously, when we
Right.
get elected, we have to like organize all of that. But we're already getting reached out to, so
100%.
it's kind of cool.
So Ramya Nambala, Jonathan Wilson, just reach out on Instagram or Nambala Wilson campaign. We'll respond for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.
Appreciate you.